Gentlemen, 4 short months ago, you attended the introductory meeting of a remarkable automobile, the brilliant new Studebaker Champion. Only 4 months old, but what a car it has proved to be. So outstanding in style, performance, comfort, and economy. So acclaimed by those who purchased it that we at the factory have been besieged by requests from our dealers to make no change in the 1940 Champion. In the main, we have acceded to those requests, but Studebaker cannot stand still. Certain improvements were suggested by our stylists and engineers, which we have incorporated in the new models, but they are not of such a nature that owners of 1939 models will be antagonized. Today, we are meeting to view the 1940 Champion and to outline our plans to get this new model off to an even more spectacular start than the 1939 model. But before doing so, let us review briefly the 4 past busy, eventful months.
April 26, 1939. Studebaker announces the new Studebaker Champion, and immediately it proves itself a champion. In fact, as well as in name. It proves its startling economy by setting a round-trip coast-to-coast economy record of 27.25 miles per gallon. It proves its rugged endurance by traveling 15,000 continuous miles in less than 15,000 minutes on the famed Indianapolis Speedway. Meanwhile, Studebaker sales soar, and Studebaker sales keep on going up and still farther up. Fleet operators, shrewdest of buyers, perk up their ears too. Cautiously, they order 1 or 2 champions, then watch the records, and a few short months later, they buy a dozen, a score or more of champions. Dealers too, new dealers, more than 700 progressive, independent, forward-looking dealers take on the Studebaker franchise. With long-entrenched Studebaker dealers, this augmented sales organization quickly sweeps on to new records. To 9th position in 1939 to date, and then by selling more cars in the first 6 months of this year than in all of 1938, on into 8th position in the second quarter of 1939. No wonder Studebaker has become the most talked about, lowest price car. No wonder that owners from coast to coast are praising it. In St. Louis and throughout the Middle West, in Chicago, in city after city, from every corner of the world, satisfied champion owners are saying,
"My Studebaker has everything. Smooth riding, comfort, ease of handling, plenty of power, beauty, and most important of all, real economy."
In 1,025 miles of ordinary driving, I've averaged 26.95 miles per gallon.
It's so roomy, surprisingly roomy.
It's as restful as an easy chair.
It accelerates like a Skyliner.
You feel so safe.
On one 500-mile trip, I averaged 27 6/10 miles per gallon.
this is the record of the Studebaker Champion to date. A record that has already placed Studebaker sales in 3rd place, in 2nd place, even in 1st place in many American cities. And, mark this well, the company's already strong financial position was further enhanced by its record 2nd quarter sales. Working capital at June 30th was $10 million in spite of the $4.5 million cash outlay on the new Champion program. The financial community at large has acclaimed Studebaker's accomplishments. One of the country's leading financial writers, whose column is read in newspapers from coast to coast, referring to the successful introduction of what he described as a really new, low-priced car, said, "This is American business at its best." So much for the Champion's brilliant introduction. What of the 1940 Champion? Men, that's why we're here today, to start the ball rolling for 1940. And what a program we've planned. Let's run through it briefly. Immediately after you men return home, Jimmy Fiddler will start mailing his unique letter of invitation to your prospects from Hollywood, California. More than 1,500,000 Ford, Chevrolet, and Plymouth owners will receive this invitation and their admission card during the next 40 days. And in connection with this direct mail effort, there will be a gigantic telephone campaign, which will be explained at length a little later. During these busy 40 days, of course, Champion advertising will continue to run in newspapers and magazines. In about 1 month, we will hold another meeting, at which we will introduce to you the 1940 Commander and President models. Following this meeting, one of the biggest newspaper campaigns in Studebaker history will be launched, followed by radio broadcasting similar to the recent popular champion programs. And this, in turn, followed by a national advertising campaign embracing more magazines and more pages of advertising than Studebaker ever had in its history. Already, the Studebaker plants in South Bend are operating at full capacity, ensuring every dealer being able to get all the cars he can sell. Studebaker has its sights set high. Studebaker is going places. Now, as Mr. Hoffman told you, we're not radically changing the Champion for 1940, but we are making definite worthwhile improvements, particularly in appearance. The 1940 Champion is even more appealing to the most critical eye. Here it is. Isn't it a beauty? And isn't it, as I told you it would be, even more stunning than the present Champion? Here's another view of this smart car. Note the eager, spirited, the poised for flight contours of the body. Note particularly the new and larger chromium strips along the side. See how they add to the fleet appearance of the car and how they blend into the new flush door handles. Here is perfect symmetry and grace. These new door handles are much more practical, too. Nothing protrudes to catch clothing. They blend perfectly into the sleek body lines which flow forward into new and more graceful headlamps. These are the new sealed beam headlamps, a truly remarkable development which now takes its place among the more important automotive contributions to safety, such as safety glass and four-wheel brakes. These new headlamps not only provide a much greater abundance of light, but provide safe, controlled light, free from glare, quickly adapted to every driving need on country roads and in crowded city traffic. There's an entirely new coupe in the Champion line for 1940, equipped with convenient, roomy, and comfortable opera seats. Ample room here for children or the occasional 2 extra passengers. And it's easy to get in and out of these extra seats. This coupe is a little dream car. It's got a tremendous appeal for youth. Young America will go for it in a big way. It will be bought by many who will prefer it to a convertible coupe, and will prove the ideal second car for many 2-car families. Mechanically, the 1940 Champion needed no change. But here again, we have made improvements, each one carefully studied and deliberately chosen to contribute something to the car's already phenomenal economy, endurance, or performance. Of course, you know, as we know, that the Champion is already way ahead of the parade, and it will stay that way in 1940. You've all seen, for instance, this well-advertised Plymouth chart. Plymouth is most like the high-priced cars. Well, is it? Let's see. Let's just add Studebaker to Plymouth's list. Studebaker seems to be one car they forgot, and with mighty good reason. But what do we find? We find that Studebaker has 18 of the high-priced car features Plymouth talks about, and in addition, Studebaker has 19 other features of the high-priced cars that Plymouth doesn't even mention. And mighty important features, too. For instance, while Plymouth does not have such high-priced car features as rotary door locks, battery underhood, underside body insulation, solid cast-iron brake drums, and pressure lubrication to valve tappets, the high-priced cars have them, and the Studebaker Champion's got them. Likewise, the Studebaker Champion has such high-priced car features as die-cast radiator grills, a lock on the glove compartment, overdrive available, concealed door hinges, and direct action steering. There are 19 of them altogether, 19 in addition to Studebaker's original 18. That gives Studebaker 37 fine car features against Plymouth's claim 20. It's different when you tell all the story. But now let's confine our attention to the business of the day. Most of you have already ordered your Jimmy Fiddler campaign, but you haven't seen the letter Jimmy's going to write. Let's read it. Dear Mr. Harrington, for me, the biggest thrill in Hollywood is a sneak preview of a new picture. No crowds, no confusion, no publicity, but the verdict is all important. Here's an invitation just as exciting to a genuine sneak preview of the new 1940 Studebaker Champion, Studebaker's sensational new car in the lowest price field. It will let you see the Champion weeks before the public showing. I've seen it myself, and it's no idle chatter when I say it's a 5-bell production. Through the courtesy of Paul G. Hoffman, president of the Studebaker Corporation, I enclose your personal admission card. I'll be back on the air in September Meanwhile, my best to you, and I do mean you. Sincerely, Jimmy Fiddler. Now, that letter's got appeal. Coming from Hollywood, from Jimmy Fiddler's own studio, it's going to bring prospects in. But we can't rely on Jimmy Fiddler's letter alone. We must pledge ourselves, each and every one of us, to telephone personally every person who receives a Jimmy Fiddler letter and ask them if they have received this letter and invite them to come in and see the 1940 champion. 1,500,000 people, owners of Ford, Plymouth, and Chevrolet cars, will receive the Fiddler letter, and you dealers will have the name of every person in your community who gets one. Now, here's an opportunity we can't afford to miss, and we want to ask each dealer and salesman today to pledge that each of you will phone every name on your Jimmy Fiddler list immediately after you return home. And not only that, for every name on the Fiddler list, you will also telephone one additional name. Now, that's not asking much, but you'll be surprised what it'll do for you. Let me prove it. Every year, the Kroll Publishing Company, one of America's largest publishers of such magazines as Collier's, the American Magazine, and others, conducts a personal survey of motor car buyers to find out why and how these people buy their cars. And here's some mighty illuminating information they dug up. Asking the question, were you solicited by any salesman before you became interested in your new car? If yes, how? The investigators found that in 1938, dealers for one of the lowest priced cars, for instance, fell down on its telephone solicitations and fell down on its sales. The very next year, however, these same dealers and their salesmen got busy on the telephone. They quadrupled their calls and their sales went up in proportion. There's no question about it. This survey conclusively proves that there's an absolute and direct relationship between telephone solicitations and sales. And I'm very sorry to say that this survey also discloses that of all the motor cars, with one single exception, Studebaker ranked lowest in the percentage of telephone solicitations. Now, men, that's a crime. With Studebaker in 8th position in the industry and clawing at the heels of the leaders, it's just a downright shame not to work these telephone solicitations for all they're worth. And as you've seen, they're worth plenty. Now, here's how we're going to help you. After this meeting, you will receive a book called Station U Broadcasting. This book is crammed full of help for you during the next 40 days. It places special emphasis on your telephone solicitations. It actually tells you what to say. Here, for instance, is what you phone prospects who have received the Jimmy Fiddler invitation. Let's listen.
This is Mr. Smith of the Jones Motor Company speaking. We've just received a letter from Jimmy Fiddler of Hollywood telling us that your name is among a few people to whom he mailed his invitations to attend a private preview of the 1940 champion. Studebaker's new car in the very lowest price field, you know. Did you receive his invitation, Mr. Wright?
Yes, I did.
Could we expect you today, Mr. Wright, or probably sometime tomorrow?
No, I can't make it until Saturday. I'll be down then.
I see. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Wright.
And here's what you say over the phone to other prospects. Remember, you're to phone one additional prospect for every name on the Fiddler list. Listen.
This is Mr. Smith of the Jones Motor Company speaking. Mr. Jones, president of our company, has asked me to call and invite you to a private preview of the 1940 champion. Studebaker's new car in the very lowest price field, you know. They've just arrived, Mr. Wright, but won't be shown publicly for some time. Could we expect you today or sometime tomorrow?
Why, yes. I'll drop in with my wife tomorrow night.
Fine. I'll be looking for you.
Now, men, there's nothing nearer to you, nothing easier to use than your telephone. And few things will bring in prospects more quickly and surely. Let's use our telephones. But there's still something more. How are we going to handle the prospect after we get him in? Are we going to do it better and more effectively than we have in the past? Scott Fletcher, our sales manager, has some thoughts on that. Let's hear him.
By this time, gentlemen, I'm sure you are quite satisfied that the Jimmy Fiddler invitations, plus your local telephone follow-up, will do a wonderful job of pulling prospects into your champion preview. But many of these prospects will be visiting a Studebaker showroom for the first time in their lives. They will be expecting a lot, particularly a dramatic demonstration. We must not disappoint them. We all know that the Champion will out-demonstrate any car in the lowest priced field. Therefore, we have planned a 1940 demonstration procedure that is absolutely tops. This is fully explained in a book you will receive entitled Station YOU Broadcasting. Today, the Studebaker franchise is unquestionably the most valuable in the industry. Take full advantage of your opportunity and make 1940 your most profitable year. Let's get going with a flying start and stage such a spectacular and successful Champion preview that your business and the plants at South Bend will be kept humming at maximum capacity from the word go. And now let us look at Borden and Bussey's latest film entitled How to Make Your Sales Story Sell. And I know you can do it.